According to Google, Japanese is one of the hardest languages to learn for English speakers. So I'm gonna see how much I can learn in just 30 days. It is now 2024 and you know what that means? New Year's resolutions, baby. So I decided to challenge myself and learn a new language. I've casually tried to learn Japanese before, but I always struggled with staying consistent. So I figured, why not make a video about it? Because that'll actually force me to do the work. At the end of the 30 days, I'm gonna be taking a practice Japanese language test to see how much I've actually learned. If you're new here, hi, my name's Brian, and if there's one thing you don't know about me, is that I speak 4 languages. But the problem is, they're all kind of the same, they're all Romance languages. It's kind of boring. They all use the same boring alphabet. So I figured, why not change it up and do something a little different? You're probably thinking, but Brian, why Japanese? And let me tell you, well, because why not? And I just happen to be watching the One Piece live action. I'm not really hugely into anime, but this is so good. So the first thing I did was hop on Duolingo. Hold on there, brother. Editor Brian here. What a weenie this guy is using Duolingo. And I hopped on and I started doing the exercises. But there was just this one tiny problem. I still don't know anything about the Japanese alphabet. I literally learned the pronunciation of 5 words. Water, mizu, rice, gohan, tea, ocha, sushi, and kudasai. Yeah, this wasn't gonna work. I needed to learn the alphabet first. Well, Japanese has 3 writing systems, hiragana and katakana and kanji. And I was told since I'm pretty much a beginner, I shouldn't worry about kanji for right now and focus on hiragana and katakana. So I'm just going to briefly skim over kanji. To put it simply, while katakana is often used mainly for foreign words, while hiragana is everything else. Just for right now. So do I know how all of this is going to work together? Absolutely not. But someone did tell me I'm gonna have to memorize a lot of things. Maybe the education system wasn't useless after all. But this is where I think Duolingo was leading me astray. Because who starts learning a language without knowing the alphabet? No wonder there's so many videos hating on Duolingo. And I kinda see it. I swear Duolingo is literally designed where somebody goes like, oh, I'm going on holiday to this country, let me learn some words, and they hop on Duolingo. And fair play to them, they know their target audience. Because unlike me, they're successful. But you can help me be successful by subscribing. Yes, I just did one of those cringe subscriber plugs. That was 2 weeks ago. I'm tired. So I tried brute forcing it, but I felt like I wasn't really going anywhere fast. So I turned to YouTube, and a massive shout out to the Learn Japanese with the Japanese Podcast 101 for having some insanely good content on hiragana and katakana. And they use a method to learn hiragana and katakana where you learn it by relating it to an object. I even got my little cheat sheet here. This is all the hiraganas and katakanas. I've been making some progress, but I've just run into a tiny little problem. I'm bored. I'm sitting here with all my papers and my note cards, and I kind of feel like I'm in school again. And I did not like school, not one little bit. Just because I'm taking a Japanese language exam in a few weeks doesn't mean I need to subject myself to this again. So for this to succeed, I needed more resources. Now the very best way would be for me to move to Japan and do an immersive language exchange, which is kind of impossible right now because I'm broke. Please subscribe. Oh my god, he asked for subscribers again? What a loser. So I turned to what had inspired me to start this challenge in the first place. Anime. There are lots of videos on YouTube claiming that you can become fluent in Japanese just by watching anime. And after studying pretty much all of hiragana and katakana, I'm feeling pretty confident, so I'm gonna try and watch an episode of One Piece and see how much of it I can understand. And I gotta be honest with you, that didn't really do much for me. I maybe understood like 5% of that if I'm being completely honest. Also, Luffy seems a lot more unhinged in the anime. I mostly found myself staring at the subtitles, and while I did recognize some of the phonetic symbols, it was way too fast for me. Not gonna lie to you, I really don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. I'm a little over halfway through the challenge, and I don't know nearly enough Japanese yet to be able to even do practice questions for this test. So I've been looking at some of the exam questions. So the JPLT has 5 levels, N1 through N5, with N5 being the easiest and N1 being the hardest. Okay, so the other day I was feeling pretty overwhelmed and negative, but I tried watching the anime again, and my understanding of it is a little better. Like I'm understanding more and recognizing more of like the scriptures. But it's still not quite at a level where I feel comfortable like doing practice questions for this test. But there is some progress there, and I'm happy about that, and I'm trying to be optimistic and focusing on that. Even though it is slow, there is definitely progress. So I just need to keep in mind that learning a language is a slow process. So I decided to step up my immersion even more. I started listening to Japanese music and podcasts while I was at the gym and going on walks. And I think you're really going to enjoy the next study hack. Editor Brian here again. This was one of my favorite things that I did, and I highly recommend doing this if you're a language learner. So what I did was I took note cards and placed them around my apartment with vocab words on them that would represent the object. So as an example, on my lamp, I would hang a post-it note with the Japanese word for lamp, which is rampu. You didn't think I would get that, did you? So the plan was for me to surround myself with Japanese and have the language pretty much in my face, in my house, around my daily life at all times. We have 1 week until test day. The immersion seems to be working pretty well, but it got me thinking about Japan. When you learn a language, you're not just learning a new way to communicate, you're learning about an entire different culture. Somebody who grew up in the West, Japanese culture is very different than Western culture. The amount of insights into the culture and the people you get from just learning the language, the amount of possibilities you have for connection. It also got me thinking about how much of an influence the culture you grew up in is on the way you see the world. How different my life would have been had I grown up in a place like Japan in an entirely different culture. Because I feel like at the end of the day, we're all just trying to find happiness on this crazy planet. I'm going to make it a goal to travel to Japan and use the language skills I'm acquiring and connect with this culture that I'm now learning so much about. And hopefully this channel is much bigger by then so I can do a video on it. Okay, so test is in 4 days. But what's interesting is I found a video by a YouTuber named Cole Hastings who also did a video on learning Japanese, and at the end of his challenge, his final exam basically was being able to watch an anime episode without the English subtitles. And I wanted to try this, so instead of what I was doing, which is just watching the anime blindly in Japanese and trying to follow it, I'm gonna try and do it the same way he did it in his challenge and see how that works for me. So the first thing he did was watch the episode in Japanese without English subtitles. He could use the Japanese subtitles, slow it down, rewind it, and then he would go through it line by line and write down everything that was said. Finally, he would rewatch with English subtitles to see what he got correct and what he got wrong. And I wanted to try this for myself and see how much of an improvement I had with watching anime. Okay, I do gotta say though, I still didn't get a whole lot out of that, but I, once again, am understanding a lot more from this method than I did from just blindly watching it like what I was doing. Which led me to the conclusion that after learning hiragana and katakana, immersion is the most effective learning method. I really like the post-it notes method, and if you want to learn Japanese, try to bring a little bit of Japan into your home and into your life. And the food. You cannot forget the food. There's actually a ramen restaurant that opened like 5 minutes away from my place, and I've only been there a couple times and it's already my favorite food. Like, it is so good. Like, I've just fallen in love with ramen. It's day 30 and you know what that means. Test day. Let's go. So here's how this test is going to work. I'm going to do a 15-question practice test of the JPLT N5. Get 10 out of the 15 questions correct in order for me to pass. The time limit I've been given is 40 minutes. I was feeling pretty confident going in. So I took the test and I really took my time with this, but I'm sure your question is, did I pass? So it's now been 5 days since the challenge, and I just wanted to take the time and just reflect on these past 30 days. I'm still studying Japanese every single day. Learning a language can be quite an intimidating process, but it is so rewarding. I hope to visit Japan one day and practice my language skills and interact with locals and just experience Japanese culture. And if you want to learn a language, there's so many resources out there. And people will often make excuses and say stuff like, oh, I don't have time, or oh, I just don't have the right resources, or I don't have anybody to practice with. I didn't have a Japanese speaker to practice with in this challenge, because there's things that are often said are that just that, excuses. There's tons of resources out there on YouTube, on the internet, and the most important thing you have to do is just start. You have to actually really want to do it, and then you just start, and everything will just fall into place. I know this channel has mostly been like a gaming channel, but like I wanted to try something else for once, and I had a ton of fun making this video. So don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. So at the end here, I just wanted to make a list of all the resources I used that helped me, and some of the ones I didn't use but were highly recommended.